Thank you for joining Kentucky Public Pensions Authority Reemployment After Retirement webinar. During today's webinar, we will discuss ways to avoid issues with reemployment before retiring, and we will go over the 12-month rule for those pursuing reemployment. We will review the required forms necessary when reemployed and things you should consider before returning to work. We'll review the steps to take if you have voided your retirement and wish to reestablish that retirement. And lastly, we will go over some frequently asked questions that you may have yourself. Kentucky law prohibits a retiring member from having a prearranged agreement to return to employment in any capacity with any agency participating in any of the systems administered by KPPA. In other words, do not discuss returning to work with a participating agency of the system with anyone before your official retirement date, not even a winking acknowledgement. Any of that can be interpreted as prearranged, and you risk voiding your retirement benefits if KPPA becomes aware of the potential agreement and is forced to investigate. The member will certify on the Form 6000 Notification of Retirement that no prearrangement exists prior to your retirement. Additionally, a retiring member must end all employment with any agency participating with KPPA. The 12-month rule was passed during the 2019 General Assembly and became effective July 1, 2019. For those members that retire and return to employment or serve as a volunteer with a participating agency within 12 months of their effective retirement date, both the member and the participating agency are required to notify KPPA by submitting necessary paperwork. Neither the retired member nor the participating agency is required to notify, seek final determination, or submit forms to KPPA related to any employment in any capacity or serving as a volunteer if 12 months have passed since the member's effective retirement date. Let's take a look at the required forms for those members returning to work with a participating agency within the first 12 months of their effective retirement date. The specific circumstances of your post-retirement reemployment or volunteering related to an employer that participates in KPPA will determine which form your employer will be required to complete. No matter what type of reemployment you are considering, you, the member, are required to complete a Form 6754 Member Reappointment Certification and provide this completed form to our office. Employers who intend to employ a retiree, regardless of the position, are required to complete a Form 6751 Employer Certification regarding reemployment. Both the employer form and the retiree form should be completed and returned to our office for KPPA's final determination before the retiree returns to work. Failure to return the forms may result in the member voiding the retirement, and if that occurs, the member will be required to repay all retirement allowances, dependent child payments, and health insurance premiums paid by KPPA. Employers hiring a retiree as an independent contractor or a leased employee are required to complete a Form 6752 Employer Certification of Independent Contractor or Leased Employee. Again, both the employer and the retiree's form are required to be completed and returned to our office. Like previously stated, failure to submit the forms could result in the member's retirement being voided, and if that occurs, the member will be required to repay all of the retirement allowances, dependent child payments, and health insurance plan premiums paid by KPPA. Employers hiring a retiree as an independent contractor or a leased employee are required to complete the Form 6752 Employer Certification of Independent Contractor or Leased Employee. A leased employee would be someone working for a third-party organization or a temp agency. Again, both the employer and the retiree's forms are required to be completed and returned to our office. Like previously stated, failure to submit the forms could result in the member's retirement date being voided, and if that does occur, the member will be required to repay all of the retirement allowances, dependent child payments, and health plan premiums paid by KPPA. Employers allowing a retiree to volunteer within their agency will be required to submit a Form 6753, Employer Certification of Volunteer. Both the employer and the retiree's form should be returned to KPPA to make a final determination before the retiree begins volunteering. The definition of a volunteer means an individual who freely and without pressure performs hours of service for an employer participating in one of the systems administered by KPPA without receipt of compensation for services rendered, except for reimbursement of actual expenses, payment of a nominal fee to offset the cost of performing the voluntary services, or both. Let me reiterate one last time that failure to submit the required forms may result in the member's retirement date being voided, and if that does occur, they will be required to repay retirement allowances, dependent child payments, and health insurance plan premiums paid by KPPA. Members with plans to be involved with a participating employer within 12 months after retirement that do not fall into any of these categories, such as a part-time employee, independent contractor or leased employee, or a volunteer, are encouraged to submit their specific questions in writing by mail to Kentucky Public Pensions Authority, Attention Legal, 1260 Louisville Road, Frankfort, Kentucky 40601, or they can send them by email to retired.reemployed@kyret.ky.gov. Recent legislation has changed an important component of reemployment after retirement, and that is in the break in service. If you retire on or after January 1st, 2024, you must observe only a 1 calendar month break, meaning if you retire January 1st, 2024, you can return to full-time employment with a participating agency as early as February 1st. You will not pay into a second retirement account with KPPA, and there are no exclusions based upon your age. To reiterate what I mentioned a couple of slides ago, there must be a 1 calendar month break for anyone who retires on or after January 1st, 2024. It is not a 30-day break, a 31-day break, or a 28-day break. It is the calendar month after your retirement date, no matter how many days there are in that month. Retirement dates are always the first day of the month, no matter what day of the week it is or when you terminate employment. So a simple rule of thumb is to not start employment with a participating agency until after the first day of the following month. So to be perfectly clear, with very few exceptions, retirees must stop working for all participating employers. They must observe the proper break in service, and they must refrain from having a prearranged agreement prior to retirement. It's important for all retirees to submit the required paperwork and refrain from continuing or commencing any post-retirement reemployment or volunteering until the retiree receives a response to their paperwork from KPPA. Disregarding any of these requirements may result in negative consequences. There are several pieces to consider if you wish to return to work with a participating agency of the systems after retirement. In addition to receiving a monthly retirement allowance, KPPA retirees often depend on the insurance benefits that we provide to our members. For Tier 1 members with a participation date prior to September 1st, 2008, have the option to choose insurance through KPPA or through the participating agency which they are reemployed. While they are able to choose where they take their insurance, if they choose to take through the participating agency, that agency is required to reimburse KPPA for the single level coverage contribution rate. For Tier 2 members, those with a participation date September 1st, 2008 through December 31st, 2013, they will not have the option to take insurance through KPPA through the period of reemployment. So to summarize, Tier 1 members can choose to take insurance through KPPA or the participating agency, while Tier 2 members will not be eligible for health insurance through KPPA while reemployed. It's important to know the Medicare Secondary Payer Act, also known as MSP, states that retirees which are Medicare eligible and become reemployed with a participating agency of KPPA may prohibit KPPA from offering the KRS Medicare supplemental insurance during reemployment. Of course, after the period of reemployment, the retiree can enroll for supplemental insurance once again during a window of time or during open enrollment. In most cases, members which had their retirement voided did not intentionally violate the retired reemployment laws we have discussed today. Hearing that your retirement may be voided due to circumstances that perhaps you weren't aware of seems quite intimidating. And while we do want you to avoid behaviors that would cancel your retirement benefits, it's also important to know that you do not permanently lose those benefits. Kentucky Revised Statute 61.637 and Kentucky Administrative Regulation Title 105, Chapter 1-390 states the member will be required to pay back the monthly retirement allowances, dependent care payments, and health insurance premiums paid by KPPA in full. But upon repayment, the member will be permitted to file for retirement benefits again, assuming that the member has terminated employment with all participating agencies. Reemployment after retirement tends to create a lot of questions, which most of the time are specific to the individual that is asking. Because there is so much gray area on this topic, it's hard to make a determination without all the facts. As previously noted at the beginning of this presentation, if you have questions specific to your circumstance, it's likely you will be advised by a KPPA representative to put your concerns in writing and to allow our legal team to review or even request additional information. The next couple of slides are common questions we hear regarding reemployment after retirement. So let's take a look. I would like to continue or start to volunteer at my child or grandchild's school when I retire, but I've been told that I can't step foot on campus for 3 months or I will void my retirement. I would also like to have lunch with a friend while I'm on campus, but I'm worried that that may void my retirement as well. Is this true? In most circumstances, the requirements for post-retirement volunteering with a participating employer do not prevent you from volunteering at your child or grandchild's school by acting as a field trip chaperone, reading to an elementary school class, or for volunteering for a band or other extracurricular fundraisers or other similar volunteer activities commonly done by a child's family. Note that in these examples of volunteering, you would not be reimbursed for expenses, paid a per diem, or paid a nominal fee. However, please be advised that if you later submit paperwork to reemploy after retirement with the same school district in which you volunteered, KPPA's Office of Legal Services may request that you and the school district provide additional information concerning your volunteer activity. Likewise, you may engage in purely social activities on public school campus without needing to submit any paperwork to KPPA. Now, examples of purely social activities are meeting a friend or family member for lunch, attending a play, attending graduation, or even an award ceremony. Now, with that being said, if you are concerned about the effect that volunteering for your child or grandchild's school or a social event at any Kentucky public school campus may have on your retirement, we do advise that you take the appropriate steps discussed earlier in this presentation, such as completing the Form 6753 to safeguard your pension benefits. You're especially encouraged to follow the appropriate steps discussed earlier if your volunteering will be with a participating employer from whom you have worked in the past. I own a business and I intend to build that after I retire. I have contracts with state, county, or city agencies or an agency that I think might be governmental. Could that impact my retirement benefits? It could. It's important in scenarios like this to send as much information to our legal department for their review and final determination in advance of starting any work with state, city, county, or other governmental agencies. Again, you may send this information to KPPA by mail, or you can email it to us at retiredreemployed@kyret.ky.gov. If there are any missing pieces of information, our legal staff will request additional information from you so that they can make a determination. It's always better to be safe than sorry, so if you have any doubt, please take additional steps to notify KPPA. I plan to work for Walmart as a door greeter when I retire. Am I required to notify KPPA or observe a break in service? It is not necessary to notify KPPA of your new employment unless you are within the 12-month window from your effective retirement date and the hiring agency is a participating agency of our systems, or they are a private entity which contracts with a participating agency of our systems. If you are certain that the entity is widely known as not to participate in KPPA and would not be providing services to a participating agency, then you are not required to inform KPPA of this type of post-retirement reemployment. However, if you are not sure if whether an entity participates in KPPA or contracts with a participating agency, or you just want to err on the side of caution, please submit your question in writing and mail those questions to KPPA or email those questions to retiredreemployed@kyret.ky.gov. Can I apply and/or interview for positions while observing my break in service? There is no issue with you applying or interviewing for jobs after your effective retirement date. This is assuming there were no prearranged agreements between you and the interviewing agency. If the agency were to employ you, you would still be required to observe the 1 calendar month or 3 calendar month break in service. Reemployment after retirement proves to be a topic that is monitored heavily by lawmakers. To provide you with the most up-to-date information regarding reemployment after retirement, I encourage you to go to our website at kyret.ky.gov and click on Retirees, then Reemployment after Retirement. There you will find announcements such as recent executive orders which have impacted reemployment after retirement, as well as their interpretations and other statutes. To see examples of reemployment after retirement and the required forms we discussed earlier in this presentation, go to the website and click on Publications and Forms, Books and Guides, and then go to the Reemployment After Retirement Guide. Returning to work after retirement can be scary. We understand your hesitation, but we encourage you to educate yourself by reading KPPA's publications, by visiting our website, and sending your question to our legal department at 1260 Louisville Road, Frankfort, Kentucky 40601, or to our email address at retiredreemployed@kyret.ky.gov.